So in this lecture, we'll be talking about loops and iteration. Okay, so loops are essentially repeated steps. Okay, so these are repeated steps which commonly uses an iteration variable. Later on, we'll get to see how this variable behaves, but this variable is very important for you to keep track of, let's say, the number of iteration, okay, or a certain value that you need to take note of. Okay, so often these iteration variables go through a sequence of numbers. Okay, so let's say given this example, okay, so n is equal to 5. Okay, so we have an initial value of 5 for n. Okay, it's very important that you get to have an initial value when using loops. Okay, most of the loops, okay, will not function without this initial value. Okay, this n here is actually our iterating or iteration variable. Okay, in every iteration, okay, so in every step it updates. Now while n is greater than 0, this is similar to our conditional statement, in which as long as this is true, then the body of the block, okay, or in this while block, could be executed. So in this case, it would simply print whatever the current value of n is. Okay, now this step is very important. This is where you update the value of your iterating variable. You'll get to see later if you attempt to use a loop that doesn't update its iterating variable, na ay mga error sana. Okay, so here what happened here is we simply update the value of our iterating variable n here, okay, by deducting by subtracting it by 1. Okay, so after i-print niya, okay, the new value of n would be equal to the current value minus 1, which is 5 minus 1. So pag humana na, okay, at the end of this body of our loop, our entire body of our loop here is from this while statement here, taman dere. Okay, since as similar to how we use indent, okay, in conditional statement, okay, it shows here the end of our block. Okay, so pag human ani mo test na pud siya. Okay, so if this is true, okay, then ihanap pong sabon, ihanap pong i-repeat. So this is the looping structure here. So what is the new value of n here? It is now equal to 4. Diba? Kay pag abot dere, okay, 5 minus 1, n is now 4. Now, i-test dayon niya dere, okay? Is n greater than 0? So, the new value of n here is now 4. Now, 4 is still greater than 0, so it gets to perform this action again. Okay? So, i-print ang value sa n, which is 4. Then, abot na po siya dere, it will update the new value of n here with the current value of n minus 1, which is 4 minus 1, which is 3. So, balik na po siya diha. It will always go back here. After ma-execute niya ni, it will always go back here. Unless this will equate to false, then move siya outside sa tuang loop block. Okay? Now, since 3 is greater than 0, ihaning i-print. So, print n, which is 3. Then, iyan na po i-update ang value sa n dere, which is 3 minus 1, which is 2. Okay? Until, maabot sa point nga, mahimo siya og, let's say, 1. If the value of n here is 1, then n is equals to n minus 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Pag test niya dere, since n here, 0, is no longer greater than 0, ay haradayon siya mo gawas dere. Okay? So, since this is no longer true, then mo proceed siya sa next statement, okay, after the whole loop block here or while block here. Okay, so na-try print nga blast off. Okay, then print n. So the output would be this. So let's try doing that in an actual program. Okay, so new file. let's save this. Okay, so we have n is equal to 5. So while n is greater than 0, well, that is true. Okay, this is our main block here, or our while block, or the body of our while block. So we're going to print whatever the value of n, then we are going to update that. So ang trend ani is, it is starting from 5 to 0. Okay, so if it will no longer be true, then mo proceed siya diri, it will print the word blast off, then print n. Okay, so let's try. Let's run this. Okay, so as you get to see 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 blast off. So I hope you're not confused with how this works. Okay, so this would be the initial value. It's very important. Okay, now while this is true, okay, this will repeat. Okay, then it will only stop once this n would be no longer greater to 0. The value of our n here would actually change in this step here. Okay, so this is what we call our iteration variable. This is our the initial value of our iteration variable. This is our condition. This is the body of our while loop. Okay, so there are two types of loops in Python. Okay, we have the for and we have the while. Okay, we'll get to see when to use which. Now, what is an infinite loop? Okay, an infinite loop, okay, in programming refers to a logic error in which the loop will not stop. Okay, meaning it will infinitely, okay, technically we call that infinite loop, but what will happen really here is it will continue to execute until the RAM of your computer is exhausted. Okay, so anyway, we do not want that to happen in our program. Okay, so this would give you an infinite loop. Okay, n is equal to 5 while n is greater than 0. Okay, so print ladder, print rinse, and if that would be done, okay, print dry off. Okay, but what will happen if you notice, okay, na ay wala, na ay kulang. Okay, so before we get to see what is wrong, let's try and code this. So n is equal to 5 while n is greater than 0, print ladder, print rinse, then print dry off. Okay, so if you're going to make this run in your computer, okay, you'll notice, okay, mo ni output, diba? It will, okay, loop infinitely or until the RAM of your computer is exhausted. Okay, so this is a logic error. We do not want this to happen. Okay, this is what we call an infinite loop or an endless loop. So in order for you to stop this, okay, you could simply press Control C. Most of our debugger or our editor, okay, in our when we are programming, if it encounters a loop, okay, di mo malikayan, especially if you're new to programming or somehow you accidentally created a code that behaves like this. So most will stop, okay, by pressing the key combination, Okay? Ani control plus C. Okay? So, control C murag control copy kay bale, okay? Control C. No, it's not control C. Ba? Okay, that's right. It's control C. Okay, somehow our editor mistook it as a form of copying, but you control C would issue a keyboard interrupt, okay, in which it will stop the process. Okay, you want to stop the process or the currently running program. Okay, mao na ang ginahimo sa control C. Okay, you want that to be issued when you have a endless loop, okay, or infinite loop. Unsa may problema ani di ay, okay? The problem here is, okay, magsige balik-balik kay there is no way for us to arrive in a scenario where n is greater than 0 nga naman. Okay? Ato tanahan na, n is equals to 5. Okay, that is our initial value. Okay? It will test here. 5, n is greater than 0. That's true. Since 5 is greater than 0, ihan i-print. Then, balik sa dere. Take note, walay nahitabo sa to ang value of 5 here initially. Okay? N is still 5 here, so it will continue to be executed kay wala may pamaagi nga false ni. So, okay, you want to have a line of code that will ultimately, okay, normally if you want to use this in its natural form, okay, you want to have a statement in which it will ultimately have this to false. Okay, we'll get to see later keywords that you could preemptively without having to arrive with this, you could actually preemptively end a loop. Okay, but if you want this to happen sequentially, okay, if you want to naturally end this, okay, you will need to write n kana. Okay, you could use this. Okay, so that the same with our previous example, okay, the n here would continue to be updated to be less to deduct, okay, the current value of n until we arrive at this situation here. So if we're going to make this run, you get to see, okay, iyahang execution is, okay, di na siya infinite. Okay, so what happened here is ladder and range is executed. I think that is executed 5 times. Okay, wala lang masapon sa tuang. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, after that, after this becomes false, okay, then iha din i-print. Okay, so that is an infinite loop. So here, another loop that is a logic, okay, logic error. Okay, as what I've said during our discussion sa una pa gyud, okay, when we talk about different types of programming errors, logic error is very hard to troubleshoot. Okay, kay you might say you code it correctly, but naay mga murag how you approach the problem, it might be wrong. Okay, so kana, so unsa may problema ani? Okay, n is equal to 0 while n is greater than 0. Print ladder, somewhat the same with our previous example, but this is still a loop that has something wrong with it. Okay, yan naman. So let's try this out. So n is equal to 0 while n is greater than 0. Print ladder, print range. Then once that condition is false, kana. So unsay problema ni if we're going to make this run? Okay, atong i-clear ha. Let's clear this. If we're going to make this run, dry off. Print check dry off diretso. Wala ni na-execute. Why is that? Okay, you might be wondering, sir, kulang tong kuan. Okay, we don't have an iterating variable that is updating. Okay, dili diha ang sugod sa problema, but the problem is kani. Okay, since the initial value of n here is equal to 0 and 0 is not greater than 0, so since this is immediately false, iyahang i-execute ang statement outside sa body of the loop. So what happened here is this doesn't get to be executed, okay, in your program. That is why dry off siya diretso. Okay? So this, of course, this is not an infinite loop, okay? What happened here is you created a loop that is not that isn't executed in your program. Okay? So again, this is one problem with, or problems you might encounter when you are new to loops. Okay? So breaking out of a loop. So earlier I told you that, di ba, you need to have an iterating variable that you need to update so that ultimately you'll arrive with a condition that would be false, so that the body of your loop would not infinitely execute. Okay? But there is one way to preemptively, okay, do that. Okay? You use the break statement. So the break statement ends the current loop and jumps to the statement immediately following the loop. Meaning, iyahang iundang execution sa loop even though wala pa niabot atong condition nga false siya. Once it gets to see a break statement, okay, then muhawa siya, then iyahang execute. Okay, so it is like a loop test that can happen anywhere in the body of a loop. Okay, so in this example, okay, while true, okay, while this is true, of course, while true is true, this is equal to true. Okay, now line here is a variable that will accept an input from a user. Okay, so as long as the user will not enter the text done, it will continue to ask the user input. But if line is equal to done, then this statement would be executed. And if this statement would be executed inside a loop, okay, the loop will immediately end. Then it moves to execute this print statement here. Okay, so my tabo ani is, okay, if you enter a line, as long as if it's not done, okay, the text done, then iyahang i-print kung unsa to imuhang gi-input, then mubalik na pud siya og pangayo. Okay, so let's try this out. While true, so line is equal to input kana. Now if line is equal to done, issue a break statement. Okay, so then print line. Can you print line? This will only be executed if, okay, this is not true. Okay, so let's say nag-enter ta dere, before that, let's finish the code. Print done. Okay, so kung mag-enter ta dere, let's say hello, then since that line, okay, the value of that variable is not equal to done, then di niya ni-execute. Okay, iyahan ning execute, yang i-print, then balik na pud siya dere. Okay, so without this, okay, this will actually be an infinite loop. Okay, there is no way for you to end this in your code, okay, or in program execution unless you issue the control C statement. Okay, so we'll test that later, but we'll test this first, okay, and how this behaves. Okay, so mga isyo, this is part of our input here. Okay, so let's say hello. Now pag enter na to ana, it will print whatever you have written here. It still is running in a loop. Okay, since dili man done iya atong gi-enter. Okay, so let's say magbutang tag hi, iyan nang i-print good morning. Okay, ihaya pa na i-print. But once you enter the word done, okay, it would it would issue the break statement. Okay, this will not be printed. Okay, then it would print this. Okay, okay, as you get to see, di ba? Pag enter na to, wala ni na print. Okay, this actually is not printed, but kani ato ganing i-change ni. Okay, let's say loop ended. So kana. So we're going to clear our screen. Okay, so hi, yan i-print hi. Hello, yan ang i-print. Okay, good day, kana. But once I enter done, okay, it will issue a break statement. This will not be executed. Pag humana ng break, gawas din siya sa loop. Okay, then this would be printed since this is our statement after our while loop. So you get to see loop ended ang ni-print dayon. And okay, our program is no longer running. Okay, so that is break. For our next keyword, okay, that is another keyword that we get to see when we are dealing with loops is continue. Okay, so the continue statement ends the current iteration and jumps to the top of the loop and start the next iteration. So what will happen here is like it skips that iteration. Okay, so once that statement is issued, ihan ang skip nga iteration or di niya na apilon o execute. Okay, so let's try the example here. So while true, so while true line is equal to input, so if ang line 0, okay, line 0 is a number sign. Okay, we still haven't discussed strings yet fully, okay, or more in detail, but this here, okay, what this means is, di ba, natay line nga variable that will hold the whatever we have written in our input statement here. Okay, now this simply checks if the first character, okay, the first character you've entered is equal to a number sign. So let's say nag-enter ta og tawag ani hello. Okay, if you have entered the word hello, ang first character ana, okay, and let's say our variable is line here. Okay, line 0, okay, kani siya line open and close braces with 0 in it. Okay, mauning first character diri. Kaya ang numbering ana is 0 1 2 2 3 4. Okay, so kaning line 0 mauning first character. Now if nakita niya nga ang first character is a, let's say, a number sign, then it gets to issue a continue. Okay, iyang skip na ang iteration. Okay, meaning it's like ending the loop, but it's not really moving outside the loop. Okay, it's ending that iteration or skipping that iteration, then back mupadayon siya sa sunod. Okay, so it's skipping. I hope you get the idea. Kana. So if line continue, okay, then katong ato ang statement kanina, if line is equal to done, then break. So ang ato lang gidugang kanina, aside from sa ato ang statement, sa ato ang code is kani. Then we're going to print done. Okay, so take note of the indentation ha. So I hope by now you get to observe how indentation works, okay, in your code. So if you're going to make this run, why is this? Control C. Terminal. New terminal. Okay. So if you're going to make this run, why is this running? Okay. I'll restart my editor. Somehow na siya ay problema. Okay. So if we're going to enter, let's say hi. Okay. Okay. We didn't write. Okay. I was wondering why it's not printing hi. Since wala na to gibutang ni nga statement. Print line. Kana. Okay. So, talaga na to usab. Let's end this first. Control C. Clear that out. Kana. Say hi. So, i-print hi. Hello. I-print ang hello. Okay. If we're going to print done here, okay, mahuman ang program, okay? Iyan ang issue and our program is no longer running. So, balik ta. Let's say, hi, hello. But if I'm going to write here, number sign, hi, okay, observe what will happen. Okay, wala niya na gi-execute. Okay, iyahang gi-skip, yung balik siya dere sa sugod. Okay, so if number sign hello, okay, maura gihapon. Wala niya ni gi-execute nga statement. Kani, nga part kay nag-issue tag continue. Once the program will see that na ay continue nga keyword diha, then it will immediately move from the loop, from the start to the start of our loop. Okay, it doesn't go back from the very start, but it just skip whatever the next part of our body of our loop, iyaharang mubalik lang siya dire. Okay, then kana. So if we're going to print, let's say number side done, what will happen? Okay, still it will move from this part here. Kay ang ato amang first nga character sa ato ang string, okay, or sa ato ang sa string with that is residing in our variable here is a number sign. So kana, it's very similar to how we have or how it is treated, how we treat comments, okay, and remarks in our program, in our code. Murag ingana, iyan nang i-disregard, iyan nang skip, or it's in programming, it's not included in the execution or the compilation. Okay, so if magbutang tag done dere, ayan na dayon mahuman. Okay, kana. Indefinite loops. Okay, indefinite loops are different from infinite loop. Okay, infinite loop, that's an error. Okay, that's a logic error. Okay, we do not want that. Indefinite loops, okay, these are loops that we do not know the number of times the loop is executed. And we commonly use while loops here. Okay, katong atong gihimo kanina. Okay, that is what we call an indefinite loop. Kaya di man ta kabalo kanu sa mahuman. Though it will end, but di ta kabalo not dili ta kabalo kanu sa mahuman, but dili ta kabalo jud if ikapila siya nga iteration mag-execute. Kaya pwede man siya mahuman diretso, pwede siya mahuman after pila ka iteration. Let's say we continue to enter text that is not equal to the word done. Sige na. Okay? While loops are called indefinite loops, okay, though they could be used definitely, okay, but they are designed also for indefinite loops because they keep going until a logical condition becomes false. Now, the loops we have seen so far are pretty easy to examine to see if they will terminate or if they will be infinite loops. Again, lahi ang indefinite, lahi ang infinite. sometimes it's a little harder to be sure if a loop will terminate. Okay? So, mao na yung dilemma when you are programming with loops. Okay? Kay, we might be working on something, we might say nga, oy, okay na ni, kay ninggana. But, later on, we'll get to observe, nga, di man ni mahuman. Okay? So, mao nang loops is, dili gina mamata-mata. Okay? Programming in general, di gina mamata-mata, you need to be hands-on on this. Okay? So, unsay opposite sa indefinite loop? Okay, we call that definite loops. Okay, definite loops refers to iterating over a set of items, meaning natay finite, di ba? From the word finite, definite, okay, or definite, okay, but this is mentioned mostly in English nga definite, okay? So finite or finite, okay, di man gyapon nato nagakadunggan ang finite nga word commonly, but anyway, I digress. Finite refers to a specific number of items, meaning naagid tayo makita nga pila ka buok. Okay? So quite often we have a list of items in the lines in a file. Okay, common na to ano is anang content sa tong file, di ba? Ang file, however large it is, kay bahala unsa nakadako, naagid na siya murag kahumanan. Okay, wala tay file nga ma-save nga dili mahuman. Okay? Bahalag dako kay na kay naagid na siya kahumanan. Okay, we call the file as a finite set of lines. Okay? So effectively a finite set of things. We can write a loop to run the loop once for each of the items in a set using the Python for nga construct. Okay? We use the word for, keyword for. So these loops are called definite because they execute an exact number of times. Okay? So we say that definite loops iterate through the members of a set. Okay? I hope you know what a set is by now. So, a set is just a collection of things or members. Okay? Na ang loops or definite loops can be used to individually check these members out. Okay? Or iterate through this member. We are going to use the for loop. Though we could still use the while loop, but there are certain applications where for loop is much more ideal. Okay? So a simple definite loop. Okay? So for I in this statement here, kana. Now, I here, this is our iterating variable. Okay? Now, okay? So for I in 5 4 3 2 1, okay? Kani siya nga statement. So far when we are storing values, okay, we are storing individual values, okay, or when we are using variables, I mean, we are storing individual values. But in programming, okay, we are not only concerned with single valued storage, but we are also concerned with multiple value storage. Here we have what we call a list. Okay, we still haven't discussed list yet, but since for loop or loops are commonly used in iteration, and list is one of the most common structure in Python that is considered as a set. Okay, that is why we get to see it here. Okay, so in this set of numbers, ang iyang members is kaning 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, it doesn't matter the values here should not it's not really na dapat ordered, okay, dapat series, bisag pila, bisag unsa, we'll get to see later. Okay, so ang pag-example lang dere is mura siya og count off. Okay, similar to how we did in while loop. Okay, so for every I in 5 4 3 2 1, but pasabot ana, I here is treated as a variable that will hold the values of this set for in every iteration. Okay? So, mura ni I would be assigned to 5 for the first iteration, or assigned by 5. The value of I in the second iteration would be 4. The value of our I in the third iteration is 3. Until mahuman siya dire, mao na ang number of times this would iterate. Okay? So, in every iteration, it gets to print whatever the current value of our I here. Then once this is exhausted, once this list okay, is done iterating across all the members, okay, until mahuman siya iterate dere, then magpakita din ng print nga blast off. Okay, so if we're going to try this out, so for I in, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so print I. If you observe also, this is much more compact compared sa while loop. Okay, diba? Since you could only do a similar program with just 3 lines of code. Okay, in contrast atong sa while. So let's execute this first. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Okay, if you want to create a similar code for a similar loop using while, so pwede. Okay, ito ano i-comment sa oops. So we have I is equal to 5 while I is greater than 0. Print I. Then after that, print blast off. Okay, so if we're going to make this run, oops, okay, so again we need to have our, okay, this is actually an endless loop kay wala ko nagbutang atong unsa man katong mag-deduct siya by 1 every iteration. So to stop this, control C and revise our code. I is equals to I minus 1. Okay, so we're going to make tapos ang i-clear ni. So we're going to make this run. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 parehas ra gihapon. Blast off parehas ra gihapon kanina. But di ba? You will observe pila ka lines of code? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, tulo lang. I'm not saying that this is better than this, but if you are dealing with a finite set of iteration, okay, much better if magamit ta og 4. Okay, for loop. So let's erase that. So what I meant by this doesn't need to be so ba in a specific order. Pwede ta magbutang 5, let's say 14, 32, okay, 102, 12, okay. So this is like a container. Okay, pwede ta kita magdugang. Okay? 43 kana. So this is like a container of values. Okay, and how you are going to iterate, check the values out, okay, gamit ta ani. So we're going to print this. So get to see, print siya og wala na apil lang 5. Oops. Kana. So 5, 14, 32, so kana. Okay, so this is one usage of a for loop. So definite loop with strings. Okay, so this is our list nga structure is not only limited to numbers, it is also used in strings. Okay, so let's say we have a variable and you could also assign that to a variable. Okay, so we assign a variable friends with this list. Okay, so now we are assigning a variable that holds multiple values of data using a list. Okay, so friends kana mo niyang mga amigo kintahay. For every friend in friends, okay, take note, friend here will hold the value of the members of our list in every iteration. Friends here is the variable that you want to iterate across. Okay, so In every time that this is iterating across this friends variable, we are going to assign the value found here to our variable friend. Then, okay, we are going to print. Okay, let's say Happy New Year, then friend. Then once that is done, once it iterates to the 3 members in our list here, then it will print done. Okay, so if we're going to write this in our code, so let's say friends is equal to, so Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. So for friend, this could be in any variable you want, but this makes more sense, okay? When you read this man pod, okay, for every friend in our friends, pwede na ito nabasagin ana. Pwede na butag F in friends, okay? Pwede na. So for every friend, but ayun yung mga for friends in friends, that would cause an error, okay? That should be a unique variable in itself. So in every time we iterate across this set or with this list, okay, we're going to print Happy New Year, okay, friend. So print done. So we're going to make this run. Okay, so you get to see Happy New Year Joseph, Happy New Year Glenn, Happy New Year Sally, then after that, we're done. Okay, so this is one practical implementation of loop, or for loop. So simple definite loop, we have already looked into that. So katong in, that is actually part of our statement. So the iterative variable iterates for the sequence, the block is executed. So ito kong i-explain kanina. The iterative variable moves through all of set in the sequence. Okay, so tagsa-tagsaw niya. So, kana. So what do we do in loops? So even though these examples are simple, okay, there are many application of loops. Okay. So making smart loop. So the trick is knowing something about the whole loop when you are stuck writing code that only sees one entry at a time. Okay? So unsibot pasabot ani. Okay? Loops are a way of computers or programs to, okay, check, okay, one by one until mahurot tanan. And it doesn't mean nga makabalo na siya diretso. Okay? Ang importante ani is if you want to check across all the list of a certain value, it needs to be exhausted. Okay? So, ang common ani nga template is set some variables, initial variables, okay? For everything in our data. So, we want to look something or do something. Then, we get to look at the variable. So, nga na. So, let's say nga ni, looping through a set, ato na ning gihimo kanina. So, ato na lang ipakita. So, print before. So, for thing in this set, 9, 41, 12, 3, 74, 15. We simply print thing. And print after. Okay, so it simply iterates across this list, then yang ipakita unsay contents sa to ang list. Okay? Kana. So, let's say you are asked for a certain problem to create a program that would get the largest number. Okay? So, sayo naman ni sa to kung kita, di ba? Let's say out of the 5, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Pangutanon ta, unsay pinakadako? Okay, based on our learning sa bata pa ta, based through experiences, okay, we could immediately say that the largest is 5. Okay, makita man dayon nato nga, makita natong overview, kibali. But programs do not normally have that, let's say, ability, or that doesn't solve like that. Okay, we normally feed individual members in our set until mahuman niya nagtanaw, then it gets to decide. Okay, but along the way it assigns a largest number kay naman siya i-keep track ana. Okay, so show that to you. Let's say hatagan ta at hatagan tag value nga 3. Okay, so unsa may largest number na to ani? Of course, we get to assign the largest so far is 3 kay mapanton hibaw-an. Wa ta kabalo kung 3 ra gi ihatag sa tuwa or napay uban. But for now, okay, we have 3. Next, 41. So compared sa 3, 41 is of course larger. So we now update the current value of our largest number to 41. Okay, hatagan ang puntag number. We wait. Okay, hatagan ang puntag number. It's 12. But 12 is not larger, so we get to retain the largest is still 41. Okay, sunod 9, still 41 is larger. Then ana pud tay 74, mas dako na gyud ni sa 41, so ato aning largest number. Okay, then 15, so still it's is less than 74. Then wala tagyatagan, meaning mo na tanan. So with that way of processing, we get to arrive with the largest number na 74. Now, how do you do that in a loop or in our program? Okay, we get to use a loop. Okay, so nga ani. Okay, so we keep track of a variable. We could name that largest so far. Negative 1 is we could safely assign that initially kay wala pa man tay number. Okay, so far negative 1 wala pa tay number nga largest. Paghatag sa 3 mao na, so mao matong gihimo kanina, di ba? So we need to keep track of the value and assign that to a variable in our program. So how do we do that? Okay, so ito na nang i-code diretso. So we have largest so far. Okay, let's say initially negative 1 sa, okay, wa pa man taghatagan. So print, okay, before we process our list, okay, the largest so far is kaning largest so far. Okay, so for the num here would be our iterating variable that would hold the value in every iteration as we iterate or as we move across our list. Okay, so asa man ta unsa man nga list, so it is given here. So unsa to? 9, 41, 12, okay, 3, 74, 15. Okay, so when do we say that the number as we iterate is greater than the largest? Okay, if the num is greater than our largest so far, then of course we get to assign the largest so far is equal to that number. Nga na. Okay. So the example in our lecture note is in every iteration iyang i-print unsay largest so far. That is why natay statement dere largest so far then the num. Okay, here kani siya i-print niya unsay largest. Okay, then ang the num here would print kung unsa na siyang kuan, unsa na siyang iteration. Kaya ito na nang decipher on niya. Ito nang i-scrutinize on niya. So pag human after na exhaust na niya ni tanan, then you would get to say after then ang largest so far. Okay, so again, initially wa pa tay largest so far, we can assign that by negative 1. So before atong largest so far, ang i-print niya ana is negative 1. But pag abot dere, okay, for the num in 9, kani siya nga list, okay, if the value of the num here is greater than largest so far, then iyahan ang i-assign. So, first iteration, when the num is equal to 9. Okay? Now, abot siya dere. Is 9 greater than largest so far, or is 9 greater than negative 1? Since that is true, then the new value of our largest so far would be equal to the current iteration, which is the num. Then after that, okay, yan i-print. In every iteration, this will always be printed, but this will get to be updated once this is true. Okay? So, ihangin mo na ni. First iteration, i-print niya ang largest so far, which is by now is equal to 9. And also, the num is equal to 9. Kaya mo yung first nga iteration. So, second iteration na ta. Okay, second iteration. At sa may values tong the num, it's 41. Okay? So, the program will ask, is 41 greater than largest so far? Since that is true, kay 41 is greater than 9, kaya ang current values tong largest so far is 9 man. Diba? So, since that is true, ma-update na po ni. The value of our largest so far would be equal to the num, which is 41. Then, i-print din niyan eh. Okay? I-print na rin, largest so far, that would be 41. Then, the num is also 41. Okay? Balik siya dere. Papunta na human. Napamunta sa ikatulo. Okay? Now, the value for the num here is 12. Now, if the num is larger than largest so far, is 12 larger than, saan man ang largest so far na? Okay, 41. Now, since this is false, dili niya ni-execute, but this will be executed. So, yung ipakita is, unsay largest so far, in this case, it's 41, but the num here is 12. Kaya mao man yung current iteration. So, it gets to do that. Okay? This will only be updated here. Okay? Pag abot sa second to the last, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth iteration. Since the num here, 74 is larger than 41 naman. Okay? So, yan ang i-update. Yan ang i-print. Okay? Pag abot niya dire, dili niya ni-execute, kay 15 is not larger than 74. Yan ang i-print. Largest so far is 74, but the num is 15. Okay? Since na-exhaust na niya ni, wala naman siya mo iterate, mo gawa siya dire, print niyang word after, then, unsay largest so far. So, itong largest so far has been finally updated to be 74. Okay? So, if we're going to make this run, we'll get to have an output ngay ngani. Okay? So, initially, negative 1, na siya before negative 1. So, kato, 99, 41, okay, after 74. Okay? So, yun ra. Diba? So, it's easy as long as you know, okay, the analogy. Yung mga pinaka-importante gyud in programming, okay, you need to have analytical skills gyud. Okay, dili lang gyud ta makontento nga natay makita nga may assume na ta nga sakto na, or even though sakto na but wa ta kasabot, then it defeats the purpose of you learning programming. Okay? Pwede raman nakopyahon. Okay? As long as nakasabot mo. Kay if wala, then it would be very difficult for you to troubleshoot when problems arise with that code or na changes nga ipahimo sa inyo ha. Okay? So basic gani kayo ni. So more loop patterns, counting in a loop. Here it simply counts the number. Okay? Not all the time nga kabalot ta pila ka buok direct. In this case lang sa tong code nato makita diretso nga pila ka buok. But even so, if let's say magbutang tag 100 ka buok entry diha and ato nang ipasa sa uban, ipapangutan nato pila ka buok sulod sa tong list, dili nila na basta-basta ma-solve by counting. Okay, madugay gid sila. You could do that in a program, in your program. Okay? So let's say Zork is equal to 0. Zork here would actually be our variable that will count. In every iteration, this would be added by 1. Essentially counting in every iteration. So you get to see the number of items in your list. Okay? So print before Zork. So for thing in gapon nga list kanina 941 12 3 74, 15. So Zork is equal to Zork plus 1. So what will happen here is it's just every time we iterate or this loop is being executed, it will update the value of Zork by 1. Okay? So yan, ito na i-print. Now this program is very similar to how we assign values nga murag hatagan natog ordered list ang ato ang list. Hatagan natog numbering. Okay? So print after Zork. Okay? So what happens here is in every iteration this would get to be increased. Okay, the value of Zork would be increased by 1. Then yang i-print kung say value sa Zork, then it yapong i-print the thing here again that is our iterating variable that would print the members in our list. Okay, so after mahumana siya, okay, the value of Zork here would be determined if ikapila ni siya na execute. Okay, so sa first nga, let's say ang value sa to ang thing is 9. Okay, Zork would be equal to Zork plus 1, which is 0 plus 1, which is 1. Okay? Pag abot dere, print, value of Zork is 1, value of thing is 9. Pag abot dere sa 41 na ang thing, okay, sa next nga iteration na to, okay, Zork is equal to Zork plus 1. Now, the new value of Zork here is 1. Okay? So, 1 plus 1, or the current value of Zork here is 1. So, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Then, i-print na yun niya kung say value sa Zork dere, which is now 2. Then ang thing dayon is 41. So this gets to be repeated until maabot na siya diha. Then ultimately we have a final printout that will display the last value of our Zork. Okay, which happen to be the number of items here. Okay, mao man ang iyahang pag program. Okay? So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay? So, if we're going to make this run, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 41, 12, so murag numbering siya kibali, okay, then after 6, okay, but let's say, if you're just being asked the number of items, okay, pwede na to ni i-tweak, okay, let's do that, then, number of items, so pwede rin ana, okay, so let's say it's going to clear this out. So total number of items is 6. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, anyway, our lecture note here is trying to emphasize, okay, how the variables are being updated, how the iteration variable is being updated also. Okay, so I hope nasabtan na ninyo. Summing in a loop. Okay, summing in a loop, this program here aims to add kanisha. Okay, the total contents here. So to be more straightforward, ato na lang awatan sa atong code. Ato ang lecture notes dire. Since mo man niyo makita. Print before, very similar earlier, for thing in 9 41 12 3 74 15. So Zork is equal to Zork plus thing. Now here, what happens is, okay, iyang gina-add. Okay, in every iteration, it adds, instead of adding 1, kanina ga-count raman ta, but what happens here is, it gets to add the members every time we are iterating. Okay, so in this part here, so print Zork thing print after Zork. Okay, so unang iterate, of course this would be printed, that should not be there. Okay, so if Before Zork, mag-print na siya og 0. Before 0. Okay? So, in first iteration, 9. Okay? The value of Zork would be equal to Zork plus thing, which is 0, 0 plus thing, which is 9. So, ang value sa Zork na dari would be 9 sa first iteration. And ang thing is, of course, 9. Second iteration, 41. Okay? So, the value of Zork here would be equal to Zork plus thing. So, the current value of Zork is 9 sa previous nga iteration. 9 plus the current value of thing here, which we are already in our second iteration, 41, would be filament. For 9 plus 41, that would be 50. Okay, so the new value of Zork here would be 50. So pag print niya, 50 na diha. Then i-print niya ang thing. Okay, essentially that would be the member here. So iyahan na himuon na po dayon. Okay, let's say maabot siya sa 12. So Zork is equal to Zork plus thing. So may current value sa itong Zork, that is 50. Okay? So 50 plus 12, that is 62. So the new value of Zork here is now 62 and thing here is 12. So yan ang himuon until ma-exhaust niya na. So we now have a value of whatever the sum of all of these members with this statement here. So essentially, ang kinahanglan na ginatang ako is kani. This right here is just printing out. Kasi di na ito ni kinahanglan ipakita kani. Kaya na naman siya dire. But anyway, that is shown in our lecture notes. So if we're going to make this run, as you get to see, 154 is the summation of this 9, 41, 12, 3, 74, 15. Okay, so if we're going to test that out in our calculator, okay, so 9 plus 41 plus 12 plus 3 plus 74 plus 15, so 154. So you could actually do this without having to print this out. Okay, so pwede na gani ni wala. So summation of members. So 154. But if you want to display, okay, so let's say the members, pwede print, okay, let's say this is one way, list items, then ato lang i print dire, print thing. So we're going to make this run para makita pa natin sa list items. Okay, so list items 9, 41, 12, 3, summation of the members. Okay, this is much more the straightforward answer of the problem, but kato lang sa kanila sa lecture notes is just to test if you get to keep track of the variables, which variables has which values. So finding the average, okay, so how do you get the average? Okay, ang sa kanina formula sa average, you get the sum, murag dungagan na nato ni ang ato ang previous nga example. Okay, you get the sum, then you divide with the total number of variables, total number of members, I mean. Okay, so diba? So again, we get to keep track of pila ka buok. So we could have count here as our variable. Okay, sum would be the summation of our members, so we could assign that by 0 initially. Okay, so print before count sum. So for value in 9, 41, 12, 3, 3, 74, 15. So how do we get the value of count? Simple, or the total number of items. Okay, you could simply have count is equal to count plus 1. Okay, how do we get the sum? Okay, ato na nanggihimo ka earlier. Sum is equals to sum plus value. Okay, so print count sum value. So ang inahimo lang diri is it's just in every iteration iyan ipakita ang current value sa count. Okay, and ang current value sa sum, then ato ang current value sa value diri. Okay, then after all of that is being exhausted in our loop, okay, so print after unsay value sa count, unsay value sa sum, then how do we get the average? We could actually do that by sum count. Okay, so if we're going to make this run, okay, so before kaning 0 0 mo ang value sa count og sum na to. Initially that is 0 0. Kaning 250 41 2 here, okay, ang count nato is 1 1. Okay, first iteration atong count is 1 since count is equal to count plus 1, 0 is plus 1 is 1. Okay, sum here is 9 kaya ato ang value sa sum here at when we have our first iteration is sum is equals to sum plus value, which is 0 plus value, which is 9. 0 plus 9 is 9. Then 9 here is simply the value we are currently in this iteration. So I think makuha na ninyo ni. So ang last part mao na ni ang actual pag-display sa to ang average. Average. So kani. So if we're going to clean this out, meaning kung ano to ning unnecessary siguro nga mga information here. Okay, so pwede na ito ni kuhaon. So we get print list items. Okay, again gusto na ko ipakita ang mga items. So we're going to print value. Okay, saka na. Then kani, so murag behind the scene na ni dili nato ni kinahanglan pakita gyud every iteration siya ang value. So pwede po na to ni butangan na nato diretso og average. So pwede na to ni kuhaon. You can even add here average is equal to sum over count. Okay, para dire you could simply write average. Okay, this is much more easier to read. So if we're going to clear this out, we're going to make this run. Okay, with the list items 9, 41, 12. So atong average is kani. So if you're going to verify this in our calculator, 9 plus 41 plus 12 plus 3 plus 74 plus 15, 154. Okay, 154 divided by pila man ni kabuok, 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 is equal to kana. Okay, so sakto, more or less sakto. So that is that. So pa may naa-adere sa to ang lecture notes. Filtering in a loop. Okay, this is just kani. In this example, it's trying to distinguish numbers that are greater than 20 as large numbers. Okay, so here values greater than 20 is 41 and 74. So kana, very basic nga application. So print before for value in 9, 41, 12, 3, 74, 15. Now, if value is greater than 20, iyan lang nang i-print. So, print large number value. Print after. Actually, I mean necessary ning before and after, but this is just a way if you're still new to loops nga nahumana ang loop, then i-print niya ang after. Okay, if we're going to check this out, so large number 41, large number 74. So between before and after. Search using a boolean variable. So you could also incorporate boolean variables. Okay, kanina nagamit na to, di ba? Katong while true. So in relation to that, pwede po tamay nga ani. Okay? So here we initially set a boolean variable to false until we get to search for a certain variable, a value, in this case 3, then found would be true. Okay, marag iyan ang i-update ang value sa ato ang boolean variable when we get to find a certain value in our loop. Okay, so di na ko ni i-reason siguro ang gabalik-balik raman ni ato ang first part sa ato ang loop. So found is equal to false. So initial value sa found is false. So print before found. So if value is equal to 3, if yan na makita ang variable, ang value, then found will be updated to true. So ihapong i-print in every iteration if nakita ba niya. So print after. So mahitabo ani is I'm going to make this run. So false 9 dere wa pa niya nakita ang 3. That is why ang value sa to ang ihan i-execute. Okay? Wa yan i-execute kay dili man 3 ang equal sa value. Okay, this will only be executed if this is true. Okay? So initially 9. Okay? Since that is not true, di niya na ihimuon, ihan i-print found current value of found, then current value of value. So which is false, then 9. Dere still di po ni true, so this would be false 41. So that is why false 41 na diha. Same here, false 12. Pag abot dere, okay, since the value of value is 3 and 3 is equal to 3, ihan na i-update ang value sa found, then of course it gets still to do that. So that is why ihan na dayong i-print true 3, true 74, true 15 kay kita naman niya. Okay, then after which nga na. So kung gusto ninyo nga let's say muhunong siya og search after makita na niya ang 3, so pwede na niya let's say break. Yan sa may tsuraan eh. But if we kani break. So ito ni padagan. Okay. So if you get to see pag abot dere wala na siya nagpadayon og loop, okay? So ano yan nag-execute even, okay? Yan ni-move na siya outside sa loop, then after found. If you want nga yan ang gipakita nga na kita niya, okay, you could simply write here value. Okay, so that is that. Okay, basic searching. How to find the smallest value. So very similar atong kanina. Okay? But of course, you are going to use a different i-tweak po ninyo. Okay? Of course, this is the largest. Ang actual na solution is kani. Okay, finding the smallest value. So kamo na bahala na og study. Still, it's very similar sa to ang largest, but gibali lang. Okay? Then finding the smallest value kani. Here is a more or another solution, okay, using the keyword none. Okay, so ito na lang i-discuss. So smallest is equal to none. So initial na itong value sa smallest is none. So none is used as a placeholder value. Okay, kahit na may error, there are errors that you might encounter if you do not initialize a value. You could initialize a value using the keyword none, in which there is a specific way of dealing with this. So one way of doing that is kaning ani. Before for value in 9, 41, 12, 3, 74, 15. So smallest is none. Okay, mo na yung pasabot kaning word nga is then none. So if smallest is none, it's like asking you, di ba? So if it is, this should not be is, this should be if. Then we get to assign the smallest to be the first number in our iteration. So smallest is equal to value. Else if value, so kato na dayong the rest. Again, very similar atong largest but lahion na natong operator. So if value is less than the smallest, then we get to assign the smallest is equal to value. So dali tayon, print smallest value. So print after smallest. Okay, so if we're going to make this run, oops, okay, kulang og colon, so kana. So I get to see here, this would be the variable that keeps track of the smallest. Here, this would be the variable that keeps track of the current value of our value variable in every iteration. So pwede na dato ni kwaon gani. Okay, so to make this more appealing or more straightforward, okay, let's say print list items smallest. So if we're going to clear this out, make this run. Oops, okay, wala na to gina-print. Let's say good, ito na i-print diha, print value na. Gusto natin ipakita, okay, it doesn't make sense that we will display in our program unsay smallest 3 but we do not know the list items. We could not verify if it is really the smallest of the list. So kana, so na list items 941, so kana. The is and is not operator. Okay, so matong gigamit kanina. Python has an is operator that can be used in logical expressions, implies as, is the same as, similar to but stronger than double equal sign. So mamaura sila og operation. But the thing here is, okay, it's said to be stronger. But anyway, regardless of what you do, as long as you get to understand the purpose of that, so you get to use that. Okay, so we end our discussion here. So we have discussed about while loops being indefinite, infinite loops being different from indefinite in a way that infinite loops are logic errors. Okay, for loop as definite, iterating variables or iteration variables using break, loop idioms, mo itong loop patterns katong gitunan, the examples that we were discussing using the continue keyword. So kadtong mga examples na dayon. Okay, let's try and improve, okay, improve our our previous programs with loops. Okay, diba when we are when we are creating our programs, di ba, every time we perform that, mahuman yun dayon siya, murag linear ang iyahang execution. You get to improve that with loops. Let's say, ito na, maghimo lang taog program that adds two numbers. Okay? So, let's say, x is equal to, di ba? Let's say, input, basic lang for the sake of our example. Enter first number. Kana. Then y, input, enter second number. Diba? Then let's say if we're going to process this sum is equal to x plus y, then print sum. Very basic, diba? If we're going to sum of x and y is sum. Batasan sila yan if magana. 2, 3, sum of, ano, okay, again, we should be casting this, okay, we could cast it diri na lang. Int ata nang imog float to make this more accurate. Then ito ana po ning string I think this is not necessary. Let's try. Okay, I think this is not necessary here since temporary naman ang casting dere, but we need to cast this string. Well, let's try. So 2 plus 3, sum of 2 and 3 is 5. Okay, so sakto. Let's change this. Ano? Oops. Okay, so let's skip it as is. Then, di ba? Once we get to perform, di ba, humana diretso ra, okay? What if you want to perform this program indefinitely as long as you like? Okay? So you could change this, okay, by, let's say, continue, let's say cont is equal to true. Okay, then while cont, okay, while that is true, pwede po na ito, while cont is equal to true, yan i-perform. Okay, we just indent that out. Then mangutana din siya dere. Okay, let's say confirm input, do you want to continue? So murag pangutanon siya kang user if do you want to continue performing this program. Okay, you could ask yes, yes or no na lang. So kana. Okay, there's many way to phrase this. So if conf is equal to yes, y, okay, kani y, then continue is equal to true. Again, there are many ways to solve this. Elif, but this is one, cont is equal to false. say else, let's say print, kasi gusto na to nga yes or no ra gyud yung i-enter. So please enter y or n. So pwede na. Okay, so here this while here is used indefinitely. Okay, di ta kabalo kano sa ma-false or di ta kabalo ikapila siya ma-execute. Okay, that would only be determined every time we ask the user if i continue or delay. But let's try and check if mugana ni siya. So enter first number 2 3. Okay, so do you want to continue? Let's say yes. So ngata na po siya 5 6 11. Do you want to continue? Let's say yes. Okay, enter number 1 2 kana ba. But once we press N, okay, we set the continue as false. This would no longer be true. Then okay, if y continue is equals to no, we do not, clearly we are doing something wrong here. Okay, we are not updating, diba? Sayop ta kung gihimo. Okay, I use double equal sign here. Double equal sign is used as a comparison. Okay, you need to use equal sign if you want to assign a value. Okay, so what happens here, mahimo ni siya infinite loop din noon. Okay, so again, logic error. So as you get to see, diba, it's very common for you to mess up loops. Okay, you might assume mo isakto man tong gimo but dili di ay. Okay, good thing nga na-notice nako nga dili ni dapat equal sign since you are want to update the value. Okay, so control C to move that, move outside so that we get to execute the correct version of our program. Okay, let's clear this out. So let's say 1 2 yes. So okay, padayon siya 4 2 6. So sakto. Let's say yes. 4 4 8. Ang objective lang ani is kaning ma-achieve na to ning magsige siya pangutana if you want to continue or not. Okay, so if I'm going to press N, okay, so as you get to see, wala na siya na end na nga to ang loop. Okay, so this is one way of doing so. I hope you get to try this in your previous activities. Ngay ngani, kay nga na siya ingani nga feature. Okay, so I'll end this video here. So kana. So if you have questions, okay, again, you write in the comment section in this. If you're watching this in YouTube, pwede nyo i-comment dito or you get to comment sa to ang classroom. Okay, so that would be all for this video. So see you next video.